We had, I think, around 20,000 pictures, photos, and 400 hours of moving images and I think 300 hours of audio. To work with the two editors was a necessity because they're great, as you saw in the film, but also dealing with this huge amount of archive footage and find solutions to create a film which we hadn't known in the very beginning how to go on.
And there were absolutely heaps of photos and a lot of contact sheets as well.
Dann hatten wir irgendwie überlegt, daraus müssten wir irgendwas machen.
And we thought we have to do something with that, which we did.
Weil ja in dem Kontaktbogen auch eine erzählerische Kraft
Because there's also a narrative force in the contact sheets. Archive material in the form of moving images is often pre-edited, pre-shaped. It's accessible to us in a different way. A different way of access. When you have, for example, contact sheets and photos, if you as an editor, you can determine the speed for yourself much more independently if you're dealing with the still images with the contact sheets. And there was a question as to whether we were dealing with the myth or with the man. And in the photos, we found a lot of elements which touched us, which helped us to shape an image of a human being and to bring that human being closer to the audience. That was very important for us.
We could edit the film in 18 months, so this is for me like Guinness. You know, normally I worked for 9 or 10 months and we had 18 months to work on the film.
In galleries and museums, you see the works. There are books recounting his concepts and his ideas, his mode of thinking. But you have to think about both of these strands in conjunction. It was very clear to us very early on.
Und von da aber eben dann in die Gestaltungs- oder in die Ideenräume, weil das ist
we always go back to those creative works, but we wanted to have the ideas on board too. And that's the problem for museums as well. They present the artwork in white cubes, but the backdrop to that is generally lost, and we hope very much that the film actually puts that in the foreground. The 7,000 Oaks are emblematic of one example as to how art can intervene in societal spaces and help to shape them through a concept. It's very important for me today, as well. It's still enormously topical. In 2017, this is exactly the right point in time to be thinking about these issues. In the late 70s, early 80s, thinking about the ways in which currency flows, monetary flows around the world. If money flourishes and is not linked to the productive realm, then bubbles arise which cannot be democratically controlled. Then we'll end up with a crisis of democracy. People just laughed at him back then. I think it is. We're going to face the next financial crisis in 3 years or 5 years, and the fact that Beuys identified this way back in the early 80s is something that I think is much more important than going back and saying, well, this is the way that all the sticks in the mud reacted to him back then.